Objective Geology, multiple choice questions with answers. This is UPSC Combined Geoscientist 2020 solved question paper, and I hope this solved question paper is useful for various competitive exams like CSIR, NET, GSI and other exams. Welcome to set 2. The first question. Emery deposits are A. Greyish black variety of corundum containing much admixed magnetite and hematite. B. Red gemstone of corundum found in metamorphosed bauxite deposit. C. Placer variety of corundum having rounded pebbles in alluvium. And D. Thermally altered alumina rich shales in xenolithic of basic igneous rock. So Emery deposits are they are the greyish black variety of corundum containing much admixed magnetite and hematite. Emery or corundite, it's a dark granular rock. It is used to make an abrasive powder. It largely consists of corundum, that is aluminum oxide, and mixed with other minerals such as the iron-bearing spinels, hercinite and magnetite, and also rutile or titania. So Emery deposits are greyish black variety of the corundum. A is the correct answer. Next question. Incongruent melting occurs when a melt breakdown into two or more than two chemically distinct phases by assimilation. B. A solid split at very high temperature into two solids having same bulk chemical composition. C. A solid splits at definite temperature into another solid and liquid. And D. A rock is subjected to high confining pressure without any increase in temperature. So incongruent melt occurs when a solid splits at definite temperatures into another solid and liquid. So incongruent melting occurs when a solid substance, it is being partially melted, does not melt uniformly, so that the chemical composition of neither the resulting liquid nor the resulting solid is same as that of the original solid. So incongruent melting occurs when a solid split at particular temperature into another solid and also liquid. C is the correct option. Next question. The topography has no control on the outcrop pattern of vertical beds, whereas the top and bottom of a vertical bed will appear on the map as A. Vertical lines perpendicular to the bed, B. Vertical lines parallel to the dip direction, and C. Straight lines parallel to the strike of the bed, and D. Straight line perpendicular to the bed. So the topography has no control on the outcrop pattern if the vertical beds, whereas the top and bottom of a vertical bed will appear as a straight lines which are parallel to the strike direction of the bed. So C is the correct option. Next question. In the rule of V's, the outcrop pattern of beds that dip, how they dip. So A, downstream at an angle greater than the stream gradient and forms a V, the apex of which points downstream, and B, downstream at an angle greater than the stream gradient and which forms a V, that means the apex of which it points upstream, and C, downstream at an angle smaller than the stream gradient and it forms a V, that means the apex of which points downstream, and D, downstream at an angle smaller than the stream gradient and it forms a V, that means the apex of which it points upstream. So in the rule of V's, the outcrop pattern of the beds that dip downstream and the angle is greater than the stream gradient and it forms a V, that means the apex of which points downstream. So according to the rule of V, that is helpful for determining the general dip of the bed on a geological map or block diagram if it is not shown by a symbol. So where a contact crosses a valley, it forms a V, that means the apex of which points in the direction of the dip of the contact. So A is the correct option. Next question. In pie diagrams, the projections of the poles which are perpendicular to a horizontal plane will coincide A. with the poles of diametrically opposite, B. at the northeast quadrant of the net, and C. with the center of the projection, and D. at the southwest quadrant of the net. So in pie diagrams, the projections of the poles which are perpendicular to a horizontal plane will coincide with the center of the projection. C is the correct option. Next question. A tetragonal unit is at right square prism with A and B edge lengths equal and C with with two space lattices. A. Primitive and body centered. B. Primitive and face centered. C. Primitive only, and D. Body centered and face centered. A tetragonal unit is a right square prism with A and B are the edge lengths which are equal, and C with with the two space lattices which are primitive and body centered. A is the correct option. Next question. In feldspar group of minerals, while cooling, unmixing of potash feldspars and soda feldspars takes place. So the larger component occurs as a ground mass and the minor one which is oriented parallel lamellae within the ground mass. So the process of unmixing of two minerals is A. Exsolution, B. Isomorphism, C. Polymorphism and D. Magmatic segregation. So in the feldspar group of minerals, while cooling and unmixing of potash feldspars and soda feldspar takes place, here the larger group or larger component, it occurs as a ground mass, and smaller ones or minor ones, they occur, they are oriented parallel lamellae within the ground mass, and this process of unmixing of minerals is known as exsolution. So exsolution in mineralogy is the process through which an initially homogeneous solid solution, it separates into at least two different crystalline minerals without the addition or removal of any materials. So in most cases it occurs upon cooling, which occurs below the temperature of the mutual solubility or stability of the solution. So here A, exsolution is the correct answer. This unmixing of two minerals is known as exsolution. Next question. Polymorphism is the phenomenon when a mineral exhibits A. distinctly different physical or optical properties in spite of possessing the same chemical composition, and B. identical physical or optical properties in spite of possessing the same chemical composition, and C. identical physical or chemical properties in spite of possessing the different crystal lattice, and D. distinctly different physical or chemical properties in spite of possessing the same crystal lattice. So polymorphism is the phenomena when a mineral exhibits different physical properties or optical properties though they possess the same chemical composition. Polymorphism is the ability of a specific chemical composition to crystallize in more than one form, and this generally occurs as a response to changes in temperatures or pressures or both temperature and pressure. So the different structures of such a chemical substance are known as the polymorphic forms or polymorphs. A is the correct option. Next question. The characteristic feature of an inosilicate group is A. 3.5 oxygens are shared between adjacent tetrahedra, and B. 2 oxygen atoms link together to form a ring of composition, and C. 2 tetrahedra share one common oxygen, and D. 2.5 oxygens are shared by adjacent tetrahedral units. The characteristic feature of inosilicate is 2.5 oxygens are shared by, that is 2.5 oxygens are shared by adjacent tetrahedral units. Inosilicate, any class of inorganic compound that have the structures which are characterized by silicate tetrahedron, that means each of which consists of a central silicon atom which is surrounded by 4 oxygen atoms at the corners of a tetrahedron arranged in chains. Next question. The characteristic feature of an opal is A. It is contaminated from form of silica with a varying amount of iron and magnesium in its structure. B. It contains a variable quantity of water molecules in its structure. C. It contains large number of microcavity in its structure. And D. It contains traces of colloidal carbon and iron in its structure. So the characteristic feature of an opal is it contains a variable quantity of water molecules in its structure. Opal is a hardened gel of silica and water, usually 6 to 10%, and its physical properties, they vary with the differences in its crystal structure and water content. Unlike the other minerals, opal is amorphous and with no definite crystal structure, and it is a common mineral found in many countries and various geological environments. So the characteristic feature of an opal is B is the correct option, like it contains a variable quantity of water molecules in its structure. So it is SiO2 NH2O. Next question. The fibrous variety of anthophyllite is called A. glucophane, B. jadeite, C. enstatite, and D. amosite. So the correct option is next question. Piezoelectricity is the simultaneous development of A. positive and negative charges of electricity when its temperature is suitably changed, and B. positive and negative charges of electricity on different parts of the same crystal when its pressure is suitably changed, and C. magnetic charge when its pressure and temperature is suitably changed, and D. electrical charges on different parts of the same crystal when its pressure is suitably changed. So the correct option is piezoelectricity is the simultaneous development of positive and negative charges on different parts of the same crystal when its pressure is suitably changed. B is the correct option. And the piezoelectric effect is the property of some crystalline minerals or materials to polarize when subjected to a mechanical deformation. So this is known as a direct piezoelectric effect, generating a potential difference, and at the same time they deform in an elastic manner when they are traversed by electric current. So B is the correct option. Next question. Idiochromatic minerals are those which have A, an uniform white streak through though the color is variable, and B, a different color based on the chemical composition, and C, a characteristic and constant color, and D, the same physical appearance in spite of having a different chemical composition. So idiochromatic minerals, they have characteristic and constant color like gold and silver. So they have constant color. Gold is yellow and silver is white, like that. So the idiochromatic minerals are those which have a characteristic and constant color. So these are also known as self-color due to their composition, and this color is the constant and predictable component of the mineral. C is the correct option. Next question. Perthites consisting mainly of A, alkali feldspar host with an exsolved sodium-rich plagioclase feldspar phase which segregated from the host rock during cooling, and B, sodium-rich feldspar as host with an exsolved alkali feldspar segregated from host, and C, equal amount of alkali feldspar and a more calcium-rich plagioclase, and D, intrusion of sodium-rich plagioclase into alkali feldspar with a phase of segregation. So the correct option is perthite. They consist mainly of alkali feldspar host with an exsolved sodium-rich plagioclase feldspar phase which has segregated from the host rock during cooling. Perthite is any member of a class of alkali feldspar and in which a tiny crystals of sodium-rich feldspar, that is known as albite, that is sodium aluminosilicate, these are intimately intergrown. But they have distinct form, and tiny crystals of potash feldspar like orthoclase are less commonly microcline are seen. A is the correct option. Next question. Duham's theory states that a system is said to be closed when no masses are added to or subtracted from it in the course of the transformation under consideration, and B, masses are added to it in the course of the formation or transformation under consideration, and C, masses are subtracted from it in the course of the transformation under consideration, and D, masses are partially added to or subtracted from it in the course of the transformation under consideration. So according to Duhem theory, a system is said to be closed if no masses are added or subtracted from it in the course of the transformation or under consideration. A is the correct option. Next question. If crystallization is strictly along Bowen's reaction series, such crystallization is called A, cotectic crystallization, B, eutectic crystallization, C, peritectic crystallization, and D, fractional crystallization. So if crystallization is strictly along the Bowen's reaction series, such crystallization is known as a cotectic crystallization. Cotectic means comparative, more cotectic means superlative, or most you can say that cotectic. It describing the conditions of the pressure, temperature, and composition at which multiple solid phases they crystallize at the same time from a single liquid when cooled. A is the correct option. Next question. The IUGS classification of plutonic rocks is applicable to visually crystalline or phenetic rocks which are presumed to have formed at considerable depth. And this classification is strictly A, based on the silica percentage, B, a quantitative mineralogical phase, and C, a depth wise, and D, based on the texture. So according to the IUGS classification of the plutonic rocks, this is applicable to visual rocks, that is known as a phaneritic rocks, when they are presumed to have formed at a considerable depth, and this classification is entirely mineralogical. It's a quantitative mineralogical classification. So B is the correct option. Next question. Feldspathoids are A, calciferous mineral rich in silica than feldspar, and B, aluminosilicates which occur as constituents of igneous rocks and which are poorer in silica than corresponding alkali feldspar, and C, monomineralic rocks which only compose of sodic feldspar, and D, aluminosilicates saturated with silica and poorer in alkali feldspar. So feldspathoids are aluminosilicates. They occur as important parts of igneous rocks and which are poorer in silica than corresponding alkali feldspars, and feldspathoids, it represents to any group of alkali aluminosilicate minerals and which are similar to the feldspar in chemical composition, but either they may have a low silica alkali ratio or they may contain chloride, sulfide, sulfate, or carbonate. B is the correct option. Next question. Rapa-Cave structure is a special type of orbicular structure where ovoid phenocrysts of potash feldspar are mantled by shells of granular oligoclase. And this structure is typically developed in A. Merozone granites, B. Catazone granites, C. Epigonal granites, and D. S type of granites. So the correct option is epigonal granite. The Rapa-Cave batholiths and the stalks are epigonal multiple intrusions consisting of several different granite types. Minor gabbroic and anarthositic bodies and quartz porphyry dikes are also associated with the Rapa-Cave complexes. So Rapa-Cave structure is a special type of structure, orbicular structure typically developed in epigonal granites. C is the correct option. Next question. Spinifex texture is a typical of quench texture and resembles a bunch of grass, and it is usually associated with A. Low magnesian lava, B. Granitic lava, C. High magnesian lava, and D. Andesitic lava. So spinifex texture is a special type of quench texture and resembles a bunch of the grass, and it is associated with high magnesian lava. So Komatite was named for its type locality along the Komati River in South Africa, and frequently it displays a spinifex texture composed of large dendritic plates of olivine and pyroxene. And magnesium oxide contents are as high as those of the spinifex textured komatites, and they are suggestive that spinifex texture it might form only in high magnesium liquids. So C, high magnesium lava is the correct answer. Hope you have followed these questions and see you in the next video. Hope you can subscribe to Explore Geosciences. Thank you for your time.